But I've been practicing and teaching yoga for over 30 years. One of the reasons why it's such an honor for me to be here to address you all is because I've always taught yoga from the perspective of liberation. From the time that I was a little boy, I was always conscious of the fact that African people, black people, people of African descent, and other people, you know, who are oppressed, but that African people, black people, where I was, you know, from which I come, were oppressed and in need of liberation. And so, you know, we always looked at various means of how to become liberated. You know, so some people wanted to take over and use arms. Some people wanted to move away and, you know, start their own country and move someplace else, and various means. But I look at liberation as something that comes from within. I look at liberation as something that we have to change our consciousness. We have to transform the way that we think and the way that we behave. When we change the way that we think, our behavior will change. And one of the things that I saw as a potential when I started to practice yoga was its utility as a tool for us to achieve liberation on an internal level. And I look at it also from the perspective that this is something that is not foreign to us. It is something which is a part of our ancient culture, going back as far as when we first came onto this planet. You know, in some way or form, we have been in tune with what I would call the principles upon which yoga, or the science of yoga, is based upon. So the word yoga itself, it means to yoke. It's not an African word, it's a Sanskrit word. But the word itself means to yoke, which is like a form of control. So it means to help you to be able to control your mind, your body, your thoughts, your emotions. The definition to me of insanity is when you're not able to control your mind. You can't control your thoughts, and therefore you can't control your behavior. So to me, that is insanity. So to me, in various degrees, most people living in this society are to some degree insane, because we operate from a point of view where somebody else is actually giving us our information, giving us our consciousness. You know, there are various vehicles of what I call vehicles of ideation by which our consciousness is created. And so the goal of yoga and meditation is to achieve a self-reliance, a self-independence, the ability to create your own reality, to create and generate your own thoughts and your own ideas and your own consciousness, and to move yourself into whatever direction that you choose, okay? So for the most part, many people who exist and live in this culture, in this society, are not aware to what degree that we are actually being controlled, that we are actually being manipulated. So when we start to practice yoga, and for the most part, people think yoga is like, I'm going to do these different positions and stretch my body and stand on my head and twist my body up. And most people feel like, well, I can't even do that, and so on and so forth. Well, what we're going to do today, we're going to explode a lot of those different myths about what yoga is, and you have to be skinny, or you have to be flexible, or you have to, most of those things are not even relevant to what yoga really is. Yoga is a whole science, and it's a whole philosophy. So our ancient ancestors practiced yoga. One of the reasons why there's a need for us becoming aware of this science of yoga in terms of from a health and wellness perspective. So what you see over there, you see like an illustration of what our bodies are full of. We have corporations deciding what we should put into our bodies. We put most of the things that many people You know, I'm not saying you all, I'm talking about people in general. We put a lot of processed things into our bodies. And the only way we can put processed things into our bodies is that we're putting processed things into our mind. Okay? The mind is receiving a consciousness that tells us it's okay to eat things and to put things into our bodies which are not real. Then that means that those corporations or those vehicles of control, those vehicles of ideation, have been able to establish a foothold in our behavior and in the way that we think and the way that we feel about ourselves. And so therefore, the first step has to be to begin to liberate our bodies, to begin to change our consciousness, and begin to change our conception of what's good from a physical level in terms of what we put into our body, and also from an emotional intelligence perspective, what do we put into our mind and our consciousness. We know that African people of, black people, all oppressed people, have higher rates of, heart disease, high blood pressure, and we hear these various statistics. But what you're looking at is a picture, illustration of the blood vessels, and you can see, the plaque and the fat and the various, toxins building up in the blood, on the blood vessels as a consequence of this type of diet, which comes from a corporate consciousness. When we look at what's happening with our health as a people, we see that we're in a tremendous health crisis, which is unprecedented. For example, we have 10-year-old children with adult onset diabetes. You have to do a tremendous amount of damage to your body in order to develop diabetes, unless you're so-called genetically predisposed or you develop type 1 diabetes. But it used to be that, your grandmother or your uncle or somebody, when they got real old, they would say, I got the sugar, stuff like that, But now when we see 10-year-old children getting a disease which is a degenerative disease, we see our children degenerating before they even get a chance to even become adults. And that degeneration, hello my sister. I have lots of relatives here. But when we see our children degenerating before they even get the chance to become adults, and we see that, this is something which is unprecedented in the history of human beings. Human beings have been on the planet for a long time, 1 million, 2 billion years, so they say, and only in the last 20 years did we get to the point where we have 10-year-old children getting adult onset diabetes. So that means that there's been a tremendous shift and change in the way that we move and operate on the planet, in the way that we in the things that we put into our bodies, and at the same time put into our minds. I was at a dinner last night, and the sister was talking about how that, this sister was 33. She was talking about how she would make a meal out of, with like $1. She would buy 25, now laters or something for a quarter. These cost a penny, and you would make a meal off of just garbage, off of just candy, And just think about generation after generation that we've been consuming this type of food. We consume hundreds of pounds of white sugar. The average single person consumes over 100 pounds. So you just take a 100-pound bag of white sugar and just put it there, and you say, this is what I'm going to eat in 1 year. I can keep going on with statistics. Some of the things that afflict us are the legacy that we have from slavery. Okay, there are various authors now writing about post-traumatic slave syndrome. The trauma that occurs because of that slave experience. There was a movie I just was watching on HBO about people who were, about men returning back from war with post-traumatic stress syndrome. You know, and it's devastating these people. So let's imagine that slavery was 10,000 times worse than just simply being in battle and the effect that that would have upon a person. And that same trauma is passed on generation after generation. You know, whenever we look at TV, whenever we look at magazines, we primarily, even today in 2010, see ourselves portrayed in a negative way. We're consuming all these various negative images and information about ourselves on a constant level. When we begin to expose our children to things like yoga, you know, we see that there's reduced stress, there's increased concentration, there's increased patience, improved behavior, improved academic performance, and a decrease in the risk of diabetes, and decrease in things like asthma. You know, asthma is like a big problem, you know, among black children. Here goes some pictures of some children practicing, you know, children I've had the opportunity to teach, practicing various aspects of yoga, you know. And this is something that, you know, I started teaching yoga to children in 1979. In 1979, children were very resistant to yoga, but now children crave yoga. I have children come up to me and they say, I want to, you know, I could be in a school where one classroom is getting yoga and the other classroom is not getting yoga. And some of the kids from the class that is not getting yoga instruction, they come to me and they say, I need to do yoga. I'm angry. I have a lot of stress. So children recognize this stuff, that they're going through these various types of distress in their life. Children as young as infancy, really, but you see these children are 1, 2, 3 years old, and they can benefit from the practice of yoga. We see teens. You know, most of these boys here on this picture, they were identified as being juvenile delinquents and at risk and, you know, so on and so forth, you know. But the yoga intervention helped them to learn how to self-regulate, how to control their own mind, how to control their own body, how to control their own thoughts. And so this helped them to overcome a lot of that negative predisposition that society was trying to put them under. What you see here, you see like a symbol that the ancestors had. This symbol was called Heru. And Heru represents, they use a hawk to represent this principle. And Heru represents your willpower, your ability to concentrate, your ability to focus. And Heru really represents the energy that a young person has. So we see the young people have tremendous powers of concentration. We know we may not see that, but they actually do have tremendous powers of concentration, tremendous powers of will that need to be cultivated. And so yoga helps them to cultivate that. In adults, you know, we see these different symbols. Like we see this symbol here, this is called Asar. And so we see this figure in a mummified form. We see the two eyes. The two eyes represents higher consciousness. His physical self is in the physical world, but his consciousness is on a higher level. That's what the two eyes represent. So that is a goal that we try to strive for, a goal of higher consciousness, a goal of being able to transcend our levels of attachment to the physical world. I'm going to get more in detail about these things as we go along. And then we have our set with the throne on top of her head. And I could say I could do a whole lecture just talking about our set. But see, if you see at the top of her head, she has a throne, and she's in a yoga pose. All of these positions that you see the ancestors doing, these were yoga positions, okay? And they had certain physiological and bioenergetic effects upon the mind, the body, and the internal energy systems. And that throne represents the fact that all authority comes from her, okay? The king was not the king unless he came from her. And so, you know, today we see a very strong disrespect for what you would call the sacred feminine, okay? I traveled in Egypt this past summer, and you could just see the total disrespect for the feminine, you know. The way women are treated, the way even we was treated. When we tried to just go into a temple and just do some yoga or do some meditation, they say, no, you can't do that in here. Even though we were doing the exact same thing that you saw on the walls of the temples. So they're making money from you being a tourist, but they don't want you to do what you're looking at there. You know, we come from a cosmic consciousness. Everything in the universe comes from the same source. And so what you see is some pictures from the, taken by this telescope, the Hubble telescope, and you're seeing like the birthplace from where stars come from. So what you're seeing here is this big clump, which is like billions of light years in size and billions of light years away from where we are. But we're seeing like the actual formation of what we would call stars. And the moon, the sun itself that we rotate around, that our planet circulates around, is a star that began in this way. Here you see another illustration. It's almost like a fallopian tube with the eggs coming out. And these are actual stars being birthed into the universe. And so this dust and gas that you see here is the raw ingredients from which everything in existence, everything that we see, no matter what form or shape it's in now, it started off from this source. And so when we start to practice yoga, meditation, we begin to become aware. We become re-aware, or our awareness that's been taken away from our true existence, our true nature, begins to return. We say that the ancestors always sat in these meditative positions. You know, so when you travel to Kemet or to Egypt, you know, which we call Kemet. Kemet is the proper name, which means land of the blacks, or the black land. You know, we see these statues all the time. You look at the facial expression. You look at the fact that they're sitting up straight, both feet flat on the floor. Everything is symmetrical. They were in a state of meditation. They were in a state of perpetual meditation. They emphasized that. And this is all, this is expressed throughout all of the different symbolism, all the different symbols and icons that you see when you travel there. Inside the Great Pyramid. Inside the Great Pyramid is a stone sarcophagus where they say that the pharaoh was buried at. This was a tomb for him. They built this big pyramid as a tomb for him. But they never found a sarcophagus there. They never found a body there. They never found a mummy inside of this big gigantic monument that the Egyptologists tell us is a tomb. And so some people like myself speculate that this was a place where they used to do meditational work and energy work. And this is an illustration of the pyramid showing some of the connections it has with cosmic astronomy and astrology. You know, different stars that lead from shafts, different shafts that lead up to various stars, important star systems, that, you know, in the universe, and so on and so forth. So the principles of the Kemetic yoga are that we have an adherence to the principles of Ma'at. Ma'at means universal balance, harmony, and justice. And so in ancient times, we believed that the universe operated off of these principles that represented order, that there's a certain order in the universe and we needed to become part of that order. And so every person who became pharaoh took an oath that he would uphold the principles of Ma'at. Anytime a person graduated from their equivalent, what we would call college, they had to take that oath. And the whole purpose of being was that they was going to uphold Ma'at, because that's the order by which the foundation of everything that's existence is based upon. Second principle, Kemetic yoga, recognition of Kemet and ancient Africa. So we relate back to Kemet. One of the motivations for doing the research back in the 70s to discover the African roots of yoga was because we saw people becoming integrated into what I would call foreign types of ideologies and philosophies concerning yoga, and without really realizing that you need to go back to the root. When you go back to the root, we see that all civilization, all religions, all spiritual systems have their foundation in ancient African thought. And so that's what we want to do. We want to return to that root. Meditation is a perpetual state of being. So what that means is that we should always be in this state of meditation, or at least we should always strive to be in that state of meditation. That means we want to always maintain ourselves in a state where we are centered, where we are focused, where we are in control, where even though you see us walking around in the world, we're not really in the world. We may be here physically, but our consciousness is at a higher place. And therefore, we're resisting and have immunity against the negative effects of stress, the negative effects of all the different negative forces that we see that try to take us out in various ways. Communication with the ancestors. African religion, African spirituality is based upon a respect for the ancestors, based upon understanding that the ancestors are alive and that we communicate with the ancestors, and ancestors are active in our lives. That's why we do libation, So the ancestors are not just somebody who's dead, who don't exist anymore. There's life after this physical existence that we live. And so Kemetic yoga recognizes that. Performance of Kemetic movements and postures. Now we just not getting to doing different positions, different movements and postures. So we understand that there are many what we would call traditional movements and postures, which are essential for maintaining the health and wellness of the body and maintaining the health and wellness of the energy systems through which energy is able to move and flow through the body to keep us healthy. Flowing with the breath. In Kemetic yoga, we move in a fluid manner, and we use the breath to take us from one pose into the next, so that we are flowing from one pose into the next. Achievement of Asar and Asethood. So Asar and Aset are like the prototypes of consciousness that we want to achieve as a male and as a female. That we want to be able to achieve the same example of behavior and consciousness that they achieve. And it's what we call spiritual transformation, or a mentor. A mentor represents that state of consciousness where we have transcended all of the various restrictions that come along with living on the terrestrial plane, or living on this planet. But instead of being part of this planet, being part of the restrictions, we are elevated. And we'll get more. I'm getting a little bit more into detail about some of these concepts. So people in ancient Africa, or Kemet, they practice yoga. People in traditional African society practice yoga. And I'm going to show you examples. They may not call it yoga, but they do the equivalent of what you can call yoga. People from the African diaspora practice yoga. When you go to, when I was a little boy, I used to go to a little, what you may, I don't know if this is even a good word to say, but we call it the Holy Roller Church, right? Where people would, like a little storefront church, and people would get sanctified. And my little sister right there, I think she might remember that church. But people would get sanctified and roll around on the floor. They say the Spirit has, the Holy Spirit has got into them and stuff. In yoga, we call it the Kundalini. There is a life force, there's a connection. In African society, in African spirituality, we see this same concept. It's not, it's expressed and talked about in a different way, but it's the same thing. But the operating force is that there is a life force in the body that is awakened, and that life force connects you with the higher divine energies around you in the universe. And that's what happens when people say that in Christianity, when people say that the Holy Spirit has came into them, or in African society, when people say that the ancestor or the deity has come down and inhabited their body. The original people of India were of African descent and practiced yoga. So even when you look at India, you have to look at the fact that those original people were African people. The original people all over the planet were African people originally. Okay. Now we hear about a form of yoga called Hatha yoga. The word Hatha yoga, or the word Hatha, represents is speculated to come from an African word called Hathor, whose correct pronunciation is Heteru. And Hathor or Heteru was the goddess of the moon and the sun. And so in Hatha yoga, we talk about the idea of the left and right nostrils. The left nostril representing the sun, which is an expansive energy, and the right nostril representing the moon, which is a contractive energy. Okay? And all of this is going to become a little bit more clear as we go along. Now, here is a picture of Yirser. And this is a quote I found in my research that I can't see.
From Ethiopia, he, Osiris, passed through Arabia, bordering upon the Red Sea, as far as India. He built many cities in India, one of which he called Nysa, willing to have remembrance of that Nysa in Egypt, where he was brought up.
Okay, so this is saying that in the ancient Kemetic text, they're saying that Yirser, who was the founder of Kemetic civilization, he was like the first one to establish civilization, meaning he taught people how to grow food, agriculture, how to do animal husbandry, how to take care of the land. He taught them the various rituals that they needed to do to keep themselves in tune spiritually, that he established colonies in what you would call India. And so that civilization spread from Africa, from ancient Egypt or Kemet, into what we would call India today. Here, what you're seeing is a chair, which was in the tomb of Tutankhamun. And when this exhibit, now, you know, Kemetic yoga has kind of become more and more popular around the country and around the world. People's awareness of it has really increased. But Kemetic yoga, the awareness of Kemetic yoga originates, the re-emergence of Kemetic yoga, like many things, started in Chicago. When this exhibit, a King Tut exhibit, came to Chicago in the 1970s. And with my teacher, Dr. Azar Hapi, we saw this chair, and we figured out this is yoga. And these symbols and the different glyphs on this chair represent what we would call yogic principles. So, on your, this is an illustration of that same chair. And what you see is you see a figure. His name is Shu, S-H-U. Shu represents breath. Breath in yoga means life force. Shu is in a pose. This pose opens up the ankles. It opens up the knees. The spine is twisting. The cervical vertebrae of the spine is turning. All of this position is stimulating the movement of life force, movement of energy. It's stimulating the digestive organs. It's stimulating the heart. It's stimulating the various endocrine glands in your body, such as your thyroid gland, your pineal gland is in your brain. At the top of his head, he has a sun disk. That sun disk represents one of the 7 primary chakras in the body. The sun disk represents the crown chakra, which corresponds to our highest level of consciousness. The 2 serpents on each side of that sun disk represents those 2 opposite strands of energy. In yoga, those 2 strands of energy that corresponds to the left and right nostril, the moon and the sun, are called nadis, N-A-D-I-S. And so this symbol that we're looking at, it represents the concept that there are 2 opposite energies that cause us to be alive. The life force that makes up our body is composed of two basic energies. Just like you have two currents of energy, like when you turn a light switch on, you have a positive and negative charge. When they touch together, you get a current, and that current makes the light come on. And so the same thing operates in our bodies. And so you see that these two serpents are balanced. That balance represents the fact that you have to have balance between those two opposite energies in order for you to have the proper functioning of your mind and your body. And so these yoga movements and postures, when done with correct breathing, helps to facilitate the opening of those energy channels. Those energy channels can become clogged up because of negative thoughts, stress. They can become clogged up because we don't eat the right foods. They can be clogged up because we have negative thoughts and emotions and so on and so forth. So part of the purpose of having movements, postures, and breathing in association with yoga is to help not just the physical body to become open, but to help that energy system. I'm going to show you more examples. That sun is at the top of the head also. When you see religious art, when you see saints and different people like that who have those halos on the top of their head, this is where they got that from. The halo, the word halo just means sun. It's a way of saying sun. So the sun disk, that energy is at the top, is at the crown of the head. And I wish I could make this bigger, but I went to Kemet this past summer and went into some places I'd never been able to get into before. But if you look right here where the pointer is, back here, you see a person standing on his head right there, right? He could either stand on his head or he's walking on the ceiling. This is at a place called Beni Hassan, where they have murals on the wall showing the martial arts. And one of the things I wanted to share with you, to help to illustrate the Africanness of yoga and many other things, is that martial arts also originated in Africa. The same things that we call kung fu started in Africa. Now the rooms where those particular illustrations are that really show, like what you're seeing on some of these illustrations are what you would call wrestling, grappling. But the rooms where they're actually showing people doing the actual punches and kicks and focusing, different types of blows at different, points in the body, that was in a room where they wouldn't let us go into that room. And even for me to take these pictures, I was at great risk because there was a guy with a machine gun telling me every time he figured out that I was taking pictures, because I was holding the camera like down here, and he could hear the little clicking, right, because I had the flash on. But every time he heard the little clicking, I don't know why this thing was on by itself. He kept telling me, stop that, so they were very aggressive in this area of Egypt. They don't like so-called Westerners, even though, we're not really Westerners. They don't like Westerners being there. So this is, part of that room where you see these illustrations. Like I said, there's a couple of places, there was a couple of tombs where these illustrations are on the wall that we weren't able to get to. And this is part of a complex which was built by a pharaoh named Amenhotep III. And Amenhotep was from the 12th dynasty, which was the Middle Kingdom. So if you know your ancient Kemetic history, you know that there was an old kingdom, and then there was an intermediate period where there was a lot of chaos, and then the dynasty from which Amenhotep III came from, they reestablished the order. Okay, and he was a very, I call him a stone cold warrior, because he was he was a person who did a lot of conquest and really pushed out a lot of the different enemies that had invaded into Kemet. What you're seeing here is from one of the temples we went to over the summer, and you're seeing what that is like an ankh. The ankh is a symbol that represents life force. And you're seeing this I just use the word deity. The ancient Egyptians, they used the word called Necher, or Necheru. And you see this figure here, who is the figure of Ra, representing the life force and energy from the sun. And he's putting the Ankh, this symbol of life force, into the nostril of this person. And so what this represents is the idea that the ancestors were very aware that there was something called life force, there was something called energy, and it has something to do with the way that we breathe. And so taking in this life force, this energy through the nostrils was very important. So you can see thousands of different illustrations. Here you see a little bit close up on this picture, a little bit further to your left. But you can see the energy coming from the hand of Heru going to the nostril of the initiate, the person who's receiving this gift of life force. It's coming from the hand. And so there's a concept within yoga called pranic healing, where we use the energy that we generate from our bodies in order to instill or move that energy into somebody else, or even into ourselves, to do self-healing. But this energy can be used either close up with somebody, you hear people talking about Reiki and things like that, or it can be used at a distance, where a person can be 1,000 miles away, and you can transfer life force and energy into that person. And so this is part of what some of these symbols represent. Here we see another illustration of energy being projected from the hand into the nostrils of a person. This is at one of the temples where we went into a temple. We found these shafts of light coming from the ceiling, where they had these openings that would intensely amplify the light. And so everybody sort of instinctively said, oh, let's get into this light and do some meditation, do some yoga, And so it was almost like you almost knew automatically this is what this was for. This wasn't just like a room that happened to have a hole in the ceiling where the light was coming in. And so people just sort of instinctively started to go through their own little rituals, their own little prayers. And so, we speculated this is probably what the ancestors used to do. Here are examples. When I go to Kemet, I see examples of yoga all over the place. This is a classic Kemetic yoga pose. These yoga poses that we're looking at, this is not found in India. This is a yoga pose here. It's called the pose of men. And people get sort of offended by the erect phallus. But the erect phallus represents something totally different than what it represents to us. And I'll explain some of that later. Another yoga type position. There's another one here. Here's a yoga pose on top of this archway, which you can see it better here. And what he's holding in his hands are a symbol that represents immortality, represents eternity. These are some people doing a really acrobatic type of movement here. Standing on one leg, doing one leg back bend with one leg up in the air, balancing on one foot. Now right here, this is not necessarily yoga, but this is something I've been trying to get to for like about maybe 15, 16 years, and I finally was able to get inside of this room where you have what some people speculate is an ancient Egyptian light bulb. So right here is a box, right? And there's this stem coming from the box into this device right here. You got this. So some people speculate this is a bulb with a filament represented by the snake, and that's a coil, a wire coming from a box that may have some type of chemicals. When you mix certain type of chemicals together, you can create an electrical current that can send energy through there and make light. And so some people speculate the reason why you don't find any type of, torch residue on the top of the ceilings is because, because this is underneath the ground, is because they had some type of artificial light. So this is speculation, I can't prove it. Here's another example of ancient Egyptian yoga or ancient Kemetic yoga. Now, this pose here, this pose of men, this is something like sort of brings us into contemporary times where a lot of people might be attracted to yoga. So I don't know, this is like a pose that stimulates the position of the hand and the arm. There's a point here, right in the chest, called the P point, and there's a meridian, there's an energy channel that runs through the body to that point in the heart. And you could see this prayer, which was associated with people doing this particular pose. So they was doing this pose in order to increase their abilities in various, ways, because it increases blood circulation. So right here, you see that meridian that goes to the arm into that point of the heart. It's called the P meridian or the pericardium. The pericardium is a part of the heart. And so one of the effects of doing this pose is that it increases blood circulation. And blood circulation increases, other things related to your sexual abilities. Here we're seeing a yoga pose related to the toes, what's called the sesh pose. And when you look at a close-up, you can see that they put a lot of emphasis on really illustrating the bend in the toes. You see that the foot is erect, but the toes are bent at a 90-degree angle. The back is straight. Because in the bottom of your feet, you have reflexology points. These reflexology points correspond to different organs, different glandular systems in your body. When you stimulate those points through some type of massage or pressure, then you are able to affect the various organs that you see illustrated here by breaking up congestion in the energy channels that correspond to those organs. And the ancient Egyptians, they understood that, and you see illustrations of them doing reflexology on the feet and also on the hands. And they also invented what you would call manicure and pedicure. And men and women got manicures and pedicures because manicures and pedicures are healthy for your feet. It's not just something that's cosmetic. And if you're a man, you don't have to get your toes painted. You just get them clipped and get your dead skin off your feet. So I encourage all brothers to get your pedicures and manicures. Up here, this is actually what you're seeing at the top. This is an example of lotus position seen in ancient Egypt. You're seeing a back bend or a very type of back bend. You're seeing these other back bend positions. It's called the cobra. Down here you see my little grandson doing that same position. Up here you see two women doing what you would call pranic healing. Now this is not just a little drawing. This is actually from a stone that used to be in the museum, in the Luxor Museum. And I went there and saw the stone one year, and the next year I came back and the stone was missing for some reason. Now we get into yoga in Africa. Now we seeing these young people here doing what we would call a yoga position, a really extreme yoga position. They're upside down in the lotus position. When you look at their face is, they're not saying wooch, wooch, ouch. They're basically very calm. They're very relaxed. They're more like a trance-like state because they're doing this particular position in the context of what they would call a spiritual type of ceremony for themselves. And so they're raising life force, they're raising kundalini, they're causing this energy to move through their bodies in order to put them into a certain state that connects them with the divine, that gives them access to certain information. Now, they're not going to call this yoga, but we can see the connection with yoga. This particular piece comes from the Congo, and you see that he has a beard, the same type of beard you see the pharaoh wearing in Kemet, and he's sitting in the lotus position. Here you see a person from West Africa who's doing an extreme yoga-like position. Again, look at the face. He's not crying out in pain or saying it hurts too much. Now, to show that yoga is all over the world and black people from all over the world practice yoga, this is from the Olmec culture in Mexico. As many of you probably know, the Olmecs were one of the root civilizations in Central and South America, from which the Aztec, Mayan, Incan civilizations emerged from. And these were black people who moved across the ocean from Africa and populated that part what we call the southern hemisphere of the Americas. And so you see this person here in this extreme yogic position. You see this one here in this extreme yogic position. You can look at his facial features and tell he's pretty much a black guy. This is a brother from Senegal whose name is Yogi Khan, and he's practicing his interpretation of Kemetic yoga. For a long time, he thought he was the only person in the world who was rediscovering Kemetic yoga. And I discovered him in a magazine and took this picture back in 1977 out of the magazine. Here you see an illustration, a picture of a modern Dravidian girl. The Dravidians were African people, the original people. She is a descendant of the original people who were the African people who established civilization in India. And she looks like, you know, this is another girl from India today, who you would think maybe you would see her down on, you know, down on Monroe someplace, or you would see her down, you know, down in Mississippi, walking down the street, or Alabama. This is a picture of a sister, an ancient, this is like about a 6-inch little statue. And you see this sister, you can see her facial features, you see the way she holds her body, you can see the bangles on her arm, you know. This is a brother who's a sadhu, who is, they wear locks, they let their hair lock, they give up all of their material goods, and they just live their life in a very spiritual way, because they're trying to work off all of their karma, or they want to accumulate karma because they want to not have to, you know, just to put it in a non-technical way, they just don't want to have to come back here and be reincarnated again. So they want to get off of this wheel of cause and effect that we're on. This little boy, you might look like you might see him on 39th Street or somewhere, but he's from the Philippines. So these are the original faces. These are people from China. You know, a lot of times, you know, you grew up in the projects, you know, there's like a little girl, they call her China, right? Because she got Chinese eyes. But the Chinese, she don't have Chinese eyes. The Chinese got black folks' eyes. Because when you go to Southern Africa, this is how people look also. Here we see an ancient Kemetic Sphinx or Heru Amket. You see a Sphinx in India. These are illustrations of the energy systems of the body. And I don't have time to go through all of these, but again, here we see the sun disk on top of the head. And we see here an illustration of a woman who's been had a photograph taken using Kurdian photography. In the 1960s, there was a guy named Kurlian from Russia who invented this photographic technique to take a photo of the energy that emanates from the body. So this is before she did meditation, this is after she did meditation. And so you can see from this is that meditation actually increases the life force and energy. We have energy fields around the body, and it's expressed in the form of the aura. So this is me here, using it, having my picture taken using the Kurlian photography.
Is that before or after?
It's like all the time. And you can sort of see like the seven primary chakras. This is the artist's representation of the 7 chakras. Each chakra represents one of the 7 colors of the spectrum. The base chakra at the base of your body is red and it points down towards the earth. The white, the top, the crown chakra connects you to the heavens. And each chakra projects front and back. And so you can sort of see that those colors intermingle and create this type of aura. This is an illustration of what you would call the medical caduceus, right? You go to the doctor's office, and they have this symbol here. I'm not sure, if they really know exactly what it means, but from a metaphysical perspective, this medical caduceus is the 2 serpents we talked about earlier. We saw the 2 serpents on the chair. And we see that these 2 serpents represent those 2 aspects of life force. The places where the circles, where the 2 serpents intersect, that corresponds to your chakras. The wings up here corresponds to the crown chakra. So instead of using the image of the sun, they're using the image here of wings. That means like a bird taking flight, soaring up into the heavens, and so on and so forth. This is all symbolic. This is actually the skull that was removed from Tutankhamun. On his skull, when he died, they placed this ornament on his head. And what it is you see the 2 serpents showing the brain divided into the 2 hemispheres, and the 2 serpents represented those 2 aspects of energy. Here you see fingertip of a person using Kurlian photography before they had acupuncture on the left and after they had acupuncture on the right. So you can see on the left side the energy is broken up. You can see on the right side that the energy is flowing very well. This is a person's fingertip using Kurlian photography in various states of emotional distress. Here you see the fingertip when the person is in a normal, calm state. Here you see that the energy is disrupted when the person is angry or distressed, has anxiety, and so on and so forth. And so this is sort of illustrating to you on a energetic level why we need to stay calm, why we need to stay focused, because it's actually destroying the body when we don't. This is the illustration of the brain when we are in our normal state of consciousness. This is actually the image of the brain showing the various parts of the brain that are active when we're thinking about different things. And this is showing the brain after we meditate. We basically shut off the brain. And another thing that this is showing is that the brain is we need the brain for a lot of different things, but when it comes to meditation, the brain is of limited utility. We want to shut the brain off because we're actually activating other energy forces and energy fields that operate, that causes us to have our consciousness. So basically the brain is just divided up into different parts that basically these parts are programmed by our external experience to make us believe and feel the things that we feel and believe. Okay, so I'm going to open up for questions right now. Anybody have any questions?
Will you show us some different poses or things that we can do with our body? One, about that, that's one. for whatever different conflicts you see, know that we are normally having in our lives.
Mhm.
Two, could you tell us about meditation? How do you do it? How do you know that you are meditating?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. This is what we're going to do. First of all, I'd like everybody to stand up. We're going to do a very simple Kemetic yoga technique called the Tekken pose. And basically, what I want you to do is, this is just something that takes stress out of some of your major muscles in your body. So what I want you to do is stand with your feet together, your legs straight, and project your arms straight down next to your body. While slapping your neighbor in the face, turn your arms out and lift your arms up. I want you to breathe in as your arms go up. And I want you to exhale as you put your hands together. And then as you breathe in, lift your head up and let your head go back as you exhale. Now breathe in through your nose and raise your head up straight. And then as you exhale, I want you to slowly release your arms down. And you're going to feel that energy that you saw in those pictures. You're going to feel that energy surrounding your body. Lower your arms all the way down next to your body. When me and my little sister over here, when we were little kids, my mother would tell us that, because we'd be outside in the projects doing all kind of stuff. So she'd be visualizing us, and she'd be visualizing us, and she's surrounding us with the white light of Christ to protect us. And so, a lot of people from the projects ain't here no more, but we still here. Okay? So we was being protected. And so this same energy is energy that you can create yourself. So what I want you to do is to try that again. I want you to rotate your arms out. So you think, and so just from a structural perspective, you think about your shoulder joint. Everybody has a lot of tension in the shoulder. You rotate the arm out so that your arms are extended and you reach up. When you reach up, I want you to reach all the way through your ribs, all the way through your shoulders, and exhale your hands together. And then as you breathe in, lift your head up. I want you to release the back of your neck. And you're going to feel that throat chakra. It represents Tehuti opening up as you let your head go back, as you stimulate your thyroid gland. Now breathe in and raise your head up straight. As you breathe in, hold your breath. Turn the back of your hands together and then slowly exhale. Let your arms go down. I want you to feel that energy. It's like a fan opening up, surrounding yourself with that energy. Okay? Now, one thing I forgot to tell you, there's something called tongue connection. So you have 3 places at the roof of your mouth where you want to connect your tongue. Okay? If you put your tongue up to the top of your mouth and slide it back, you're going to feel hard. And then when you slide it back far enough, you're going to feel the hard turn into soft. You got the hard palate and the soft palate. The point where they touch together at, that's where you want to be able to connect your tongue. We're going to keep the tongue connected at that point while we're doing the meditation that's going to follow this. Okay, so place your tongue up to that point. If you can't put your tongue all the way back, just put your tongue up to the roof of your mouth. This helps to connect those energy systems in the body. It helps create what's called a microcosmic orbit. Rotate your arms out. Place your tongue at one of those points at the top of the mouth. I want you to breathe in. Let the inhalation of your breath lift your arms up. Let the exhalation of your breath bring your hands together and really reach. Now breathe in and lift your head up. And on your exhalation, release your neck and let your head go back. Now breathe in and raise your head up straight. Bring the back of your hands together and you slowly exhale. And lower your arms down. And release all the tension from your body. Feel that energy moving through your body. Now from here, I want you to move straight back into sitting down again. Now, I want you to sit up straight. Just like you saw the illustration earlier of the Pharaoh sitting with his back straight, his hands resting on the thighs, the legs even, the feet even. I want you to sit up straight. And I want you to place your hands on your thighs. And I want you to close your eyes. Let your eyes close. So that movement, so we go from movement into still meditation. The movement helps to stimulate the energy, the meditation, and the breathing is going to help you to move and circulate the life force. Okay? So as you breathe, I want you to slowly inhale through your nose and feel the breath come into your lower abdomen. Let your lower abdomen expand outward. And I want you to slowly open up your mouth and say, when you exhale, feel your stomach go in. You can even put your hands on your stomach. Try to find your neighbor. Just put your hands right on your lower belly area. And I want you to breathe in. I want you to feel that area expand outward. Hold your breath in for 1 second and you slowly exhale. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out slowly through your mouth. Now, keep your eyes closed and put your hands on your thighs. I want you to slowly inhale through your nose and slowly exhale out through your nose. Try to feel the breath moves very slowly into your nostrils, where you can feel the coolness of the air along the walls of your nostrils when you breathe in. And when you exhale, you're going to feel the warmth of the air along the walls of your nostrils. So I want you to release and relax all the tension from your body. So your breathing, what breathing does is that it releases tension. The exhalation of your breath releases tension from your body. The inhalation of your breath brings life force and energy into your body. So I want you to slowly inhale and slowly exhale. And what you will notice is that you may notice automatically that you can feel or experience different thoughts trying to come into your mind. And so you want to control those thoughts. You don't want to think about anything that's coming into your consciousness. Just try to let your awareness leave away from whatever it is, whatever image or thought that comes into your mind, and refocus your attention on breathing, watching your inhalation and watching your exhalation. You're going to scan your body, place your mind into your forehead muscles, relax your forehead muscles. You're going to place your mind into your jaw and your cheeks. Let your jaw and your cheek muscles relax. You're going to place your mind into the back of your neck and into your shoulders. And let your neck and your shoulders relax. Place your mind into your left arm. Relax your left arm from your shoulder down to your elbow. Feel those muscles relax. Relax your left arm from your elbow down to your wrist. And from your wrist down into your hands, into your fingers. Place your mind into your right arm. Relax your right arm from your shoulder down to your elbow. From your elbow into your wrist. From your wrist into your hands and your fingers. Now, as you relax both your arms and your hands and your fingers, you should be able to feel tingles of energy in the palms of your hands. You should feel the palms of your hands becoming warmer, beginning to glow with energy. So I want you to raise your hands off your thighs and turn your palms up towards the ceiling. Rotate your hands up. You're going to feel sort of like a heaviness in your hands. You want to keep your fingers relaxed. Relax your palms. Got to maintain your eyes in a closed position. And keep breathing in and out slowly through your nose. And I want you to take your hands. You're going to very gently rub your palms together. Separate your hands away from each other. And I want you to put your hands right in front of your forehead. I don't want you to touch your face. I want you to just put your hands right in front of your forehead or in front of your face. You're going to be able to feel that energy connecting between your hands and your face. You can feel that energetic connection. You can feel that warm energy moving from your hands into your face. Move your hands up above the top of your head. You try to feel that energy over the crown of your head. So you just want to be about 3 or 4 inches over the top of your head. Try to feel that energy connecting between your palms and the crown of your head. Now breathe in and extend your arms all the way up. And as you exhale, you're going to move your hands down and rest the back of your hands to your thighs again. With your left hand, you're going to place your thumb and your 4 fingers together, resting your left wrist or your left thigh. With your right hand, you're going to take your right thumb and you're going to close your right nostril. And I want you to breathe very slowly in through your left nostril. Exhale very slowly through your left nostril. Now take your index finger and close your left nostril. Remove your right nostril from your nose. And I want you to breathe in through your right. Remove your right thumb from your nose. Breathe in through your right nostril. Breathe out through your right nostril. Close your right nostril, open up your left. I want you to breathe in slowly through your left. And you're going to breathe out slowly through your left. I want you to repeat that breathing at your own rate of speed. Keep alternating your breathing. And what I want you to experience as you breathe, first of all, I want you to see if you're having difficulties breathing. Are your nostrils open or not? Is one nostril closed and the other one open? Do you have congestion? All of that, if you have any of those things, it's like a sign that you need to drink more water. You may need to improve your diet. You may need to do some yoga movements and postures to get your energy channels opened up. Okay? So I just want you to repeat the breathing that you're doing. Take your time. Don't strain your breath. Inhale slowly. Exhale slowly. And let your eyes stay closed and focus inwardly. Continue to breathe in and out slowly through your nostrils. When you breathe in, you're going to feel that the air is cool along the walls of your nostrils. When you breathe out, you're going to feel that the air has become warmer. When you breathe in, I want you to focus your attention to the point right between your eyebrows. And I want you to feel the air passing along that point in the middle of your forehead, between your eyebrows. So you can feel that cool air on that point between your eyebrows. Then you slowly exhale. Slowly inhaling. Slowly exhaling. And after you exhale for the last time, return your hands back to your thighs. Turn your right hand to your thigh, and you're going to let your thumb and 4 fingers on each hand touch together. Your palms are facing up with the thumb and 4 fingers touching, and you can feel in the palm of your hand, you can feel like a warm energy in the palms of your hands. Now, keep your eyes closed, keep your body still, keep your tongue connected. And I want you to slowly breathe in. And as you breathe in, I want you to use your mind to try to feel this energy, feel this life force coming from the base of your stomach area. Lower down 3 inches below your navel and the base of your body. I want you to feel that energy move upward, up your spine and move all the way up to the top of your head. So when you breathe in, I want you to feel that energy rising. You're going to hold your breath for 1 second after you inhale. And then for 1 second, and then you're going to slowly exhale your breath out. When you exhale, you should feel that energy move through your arms and into your hands, and down your legs and into your feet. So you're slowly breathing in, slowly breathing out. Trying to keep the tongue connected at the roof of the mouth. I want you to slowly rub your palms together. And then I want you to take the heel of your hands and massage your eyes. Make circular motions on your temples, making round circular motions on your temples. And massaging your forehead. Okay? Let your eyes